Welcome back, friends. I am Rob Barnes. Some of you know me as DevOps Rob, and this is The Startup. So this is the series where we build the product of an imaginary startup using the HashiCorp stack. The last episode, we went through how we can use a tool called Jumppad, developed by some friends of mine, to deploy a Nomad cluster, because in this startup, we're going to use Nomad to actually run our application stack. And that was pretty fun. We went through the whole journey. In this episode, we are going to try and deploy the actual application to that Nomad cluster, right? Now, in the last episode, we also went through some high-level architecture. We went through some of the things that the application has to do, and we're only focusing on a small part of the product that this startup is developing, just because that's all we need really, just for this journey here. And it's literally going to be the login journey and the sign up / create account journey. So yeah, let's get into it. This is a learning journey for me as much as it probably is for you. I have done some stuff with Nomad before. People know me about some of the security integrations I've built between Nomad and Boundary, but actually using Nomad to run stuff and going through the everyday trials and tribulations, I don't really have that background. So this is a learning curve for someone like me as well. So there might be some things I don't know, and if we run into things, you'll see me Googling and looking things up. That's just normal life. But yeah, let's get into this. Let's take a look at this here. So we want to deploy the application to Nomad. The application is, this service is called the verification service. Now, the role of this service here is to, when someone signs up, you normally have to provide information like an email address or a phone number, but we need to verify that you actually do own that email address, or you do actually own that phone number. And the reason why we need to verify that is because these are going to form part of our multi-factor authentication strategy, right? So essentially what will happen is when a user goes to create an account, a one-time password is sent to whatever medium it is that they're entering. So if it's email, they'll get it via email. If it's SMS, they'll get it via SMS. And it will be that one-time password, and they have to input it. And obviously, if it's fine, then great, it will be approved. If it's not, then it won't be approved. Then they have to start again, basically. So that's the crux of the service here. We have just a README to the right of the screen, and it's only got 2 endpoints. This service, right? It's just an API server. You pass it a JSON payload to any of these 2 endpoints. The 2 endpoints are send one-time password or send OTP, which is where the request is made by the user to send them the one-time password to their medium. And once they've received it, they hit the next endpoint, which is to verify the one-time password, right? And what we have here, as you can see in the prerequisites, that there are 3 environment variables that need to be set, right? So we're using Twilio, which is a service that facilitates all of this verify functionality. They actually call it the Verify API. In order for that to work, we need to give it the Twilio service SID, which is like a unique identifier. We need to give it an authorization token, and we need to give it an account SID, right? So the account SID points to the Twilio account. The auth token is like a password, that's how you authenticate. And the service ID is, in Twilio, you create different services for different things. So the service that we're using within Twilio, for this to function, you need the specific ID for that. So those are the 3 environment variables. And we can just jump and have a quick browse of the source code, right? We're not going to go through everything, but I'll just kind of show you in the source code. It's all written in Go. And if you look here, I'll just highlight these lines here. So essentially what the application is doing is it's getting, for the auth token, it's getting the environment variable Twilio_auth_ token. And it's a requirement for this service to start up. If it does not exist, it will fail with this error message here saying that it needs that environment variable to be set. And we've done the same thing with the other two environment variables as well. The rest of them are just kind of naming stuff. So I actually built a template for API servers, and I've pretty much built this service off this template. So, we have things like service name, and obviously I've changed the service name to hard code it to verification service. This just helps with the startup script and all that kind of stuff there, and the port that it's going to run through, so on and so forth, right? So it's going to run through port 2001, nothing major there, right? So this is the application that we want to deploy to our Nomad cluster, right? If you remember from last week, let's just head over to, we'll close some of these windows so it doesn't get too confusing. If we head over to our Jumppad folder, we created a network as part of our local development environments. This is just like a Docker network. And we created a Nomad cluster with 3 nodes, right? Now, one of the questions that came up last time was, can we run, like, say, a 3-node Nomad cluster and 3-node Nomad clients, right? And the answer is, for Jumppad, no, right? Jumppad gives you a single Nomad server. It's only a development environment, but you can have as many nodes as you want. In theory, you can actually have multiple nodes. You would have to literally create the resources multiple times, and then you'd have to give some specific configuration that would join the nodes up together as one cluster. But for the sake of a simple local development environment, we are not doing that, right? So we literally have the network and we have the cluster, right? And I don't actually think I've got this running. So I'm actually going to just launch a terminal. Let's see if this is actually big enough. I'll boost the size of all of this for you all. And I'm going to, I need to change directory first. So I'll change into Jumppad and clear that. We're going to run Jumppad up, and this should deploy our environment, our Nomad cluster, right? And whilst we kind of wait for that to kick into life, which it is kicking into life, I don't have debug mode enabled, so the logs will probably be a lot less than what we saw the last time. What we can do is we can open up another terminal. So we'll do that. Actually, we won't split that terminal. We'll add a second one. And we will, let's just make this a bit smaller. Let's have a quick look at how we're going to run this application, right? So we have a very basic Docker file here, right? It's not doing much, to be honest. This is all part of the template web application that I have, that we've forked this from. But literally, it's going to take our source code in Go and it's going to package it up as a Docker container. There is nothing fancy going on here, right? So yeah, we're just going to need to build that just so that we can test it locally. So let's have a look. We have Jumppad up and running. And let's actually head, I say Jumppad, it's Nomad. Let's head over to port 4646 on localhost, and we should have a running Nomad server, right? And that is fantastic, right? Now, we need to build this, this image here, right? In order to run this, right? So just go to this here. Hopefully it's big enough. I actually need to make it a bit smaller because it's a bit tough for me to actually see what I'm doing, right? Okay, so we're going to want to build this application into a Docker image, right? So we're just going to use the Docker command line, right? So we'll do Docker build, and we want to do -t because we want to give it a tag. And we'll do, so my Docker registry is DevOps Rob / and then we'll do verification -service. And the version we want to give it is 0.1. right? So we'll do that. And then if I put a dot, because it's going to look for the Docker file in our current directory, which let me double check, it is in the current directory. Yes, it is. It's just here. That should start to build our Docker image, right? So I hope I haven't made any typos of that. It's actually been a while since I've used Docker, so you have to forgive me if I have to start looking up what the commands are again, because it's been a long time. But we'll just run that and hopefully there's no error message, and there isn't. So it looks like it's actually building that, and it looks like it built that already. Odd, okay. Let me just do a quick clear screen and we'll just double check that that's actually there. So if I do docker image ls to list our images, I have a lot of images by the looks of it. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's built it. That was rapido. I like that. I like that. Matter of fact, let me see if I've got sound effects on this. Let me see if I can give myself a round of applause for that one there. Is that? Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Every single time something works, we're gonna give ourselves a round of applause. Because you know, if you're not your own biggest cheerleader, who will be, right? So we have that, right? Now, how are we going to run this on Nomad, right? And the way we're going to run that is via a Nomad job, right? That's how you define how an application is going to run on Nomad. We'll just clear this screen here, right? And we will close this. So in order to run this on Nomad, we need a Nomad job file. And I think the easiest way to define a Nomad job file is probably to start with a template. Now, Nomad's got this really dope thing built into it, if I remember correctly. And I think it's called Nomad. I think it's Nomad job init. I think it's Nomad job init, but actually I don't want to run that. What I want to do is I want to, because I don't know if I want that in. No, that's fine. We can run it in this. I was going to say I don't want it in this directory here, but I think I do actually. I think I want it in the same directory as the Docker file. So we'll run it again. So Nomad job init, and we'll just hit enter, and it's written a file called example nomad.hcl, right? So if you've never written a job file before, this is probably going to be a good place to start. I've written one before a long time ago. I can't actually remember any of it. So yeah, and here we have an example job file. The only problem with this is it's super verbose. It's got a lot of commenting because obviously it's designed for people that have never written a job file before. So it's explaining every single step. That's a little bit much for me, I'm not gonna lie. So we're not gonna go through all that. I'm actually gonna delete that. And I'm pretty sure there is like a flag we can pass, but I can't remember what it is. So I'll just put the help and see if I can find, oh, there we go. So if you use this dash short flag, it gives you a more minimal job, right? So let's do dash short, and we have the other file here, and let's have a look here. And it's a lot more readable, right? Okay, cool. So this is an example job file. I think the first thing I want to do is, it's not even a .hcl file. I think Nomad takes two file formats. Oh, it is a .hcl file. But I think you can do example.nomad as well, and that will class as a job file as well. But what I want to do is I want to rename this. Where's rename? Rename this to verification dash service. Okay, cool. So verification dash service. Okay, and this should create our job. And then let's go through renaming some of this. So it looks like in this existing one, it's deploying a Redis cache server using Docker. It's doing some network port communication here. So it's telling you what port is going to run on the network. There's some configuration here for the actual container itself. I haven't delved much into this, but I did hear from a good friend of mine, James Razel, that there was workload identity coming into Nomad, and I'm guessing this is a part of it. I don't really know how this works and what you can do with it, but and it's the first time I've seen this, but that's cool. And then we just have some resources, right? But one thing I think it doesn't have is, I swear you normally had to pass a data center into this. I can't remember. It's fine. Let's go through refactoring this, right? So we want to call this job for verification. That's fine. And inside each job, you have groups, right? Groups of tasks, right? So a task group. And this task, we're not going to call it cache. We're going to call this verification. Oh, if I can spell. And we're going to nickname our port from DB to VS for verification service. And if you remember correctly, when we looked at the application code, it was 2001, right? So we'll do that. And the actual task within this is going to be called verification. I'm actually just going to copy that because spelling, you know, we can't do that. All right, so got that inside there. And the image is, well, we just created the image with our Docker build command, right? So it was DevOps Rob / actually, I've got that pasted. Verification dash service. And the tag was 0.1, right? Cool. So that's the image, and we have the port that we want. So up here, we renamed this port to VS and we pointed it to 2001. So we just need to tell it that we want to do VS. I think auto soft fail is to do with, sorry, off soft fail is to do with if you're grabbing an image from a private container repository and it needs to authenticate, and there's any failure with the authentication that can really screw up your whole pipeline, if you like. I guess this is just an option just to handle failure. This is all local. We don't need that, so I will get rid of that as well. I don't really know what this identity block does, but I'm curious. So I'm just going to leave it and see if it pops up anything handy inside the UI, right? Resources, it's CPUs 500, memory is 256, whatever. Like, we can just leave it as that, right? Now, the only other thing is we need to give it those environment variables, right? But the problem is the environment variables are secret. You know, they're secret. So how are we going to pass that in? Well, there's a couple of ways, right? But this is a local development environment, so we want to keep this as simple as possible, right? So the easiest way to pass in environment variables is to store them as, I think they call them Nomad secure variables. Like, let's have a quick look in the UI. This is something that that James Razor, another thing he told me. So we have no variables at the moment, but essentially these are just key value pairs that are encrypted and stored, and you can make them available to your jobs, right? So we'll go through before we complete this file here. I'll actually just make this a bit lower, and we'll go through it and we'll create a variable here, right? So if you look, this is not just about storing key pair values, but you're also stating exactly what jobs it should be made available to. So the way it's broken down here by looks of it is you can make it available to a job, which is this entire file. So if you have multiple tasks running or multiple groups within this job running, you can make it available to everything within this job. Or you can go a bit granular down to that. You can make it available to the group specifically. So you can make it available to anything in the verification group. We only have one thing inside there. Or you can be a little bit more granular than that. You can make it available to the specific task as well, right? So it's probably best practice if we actually do that itself, right? So you've actually got like almost like a template here grayed out. So we'll do that. So it'll be Nomad jobs, and the job name is, what was the job name? Verification. I'll just copy that. And what's the next thing? The group name is verification as well. That's the name of the task group. So we'll just put /verification. And the task itself is also called verification. So it will be /verification. Right? And I had to read about this last night because I know James told me about this, but I'd never actually seen it in practice. So I did come across someone's Medium article, and it was super dope. So so we have this, and the way that we need to do this, we need to give it a key and a value, right? So if we go back to our README, we have all of the variables in here, right? So I'll just put that, and I'll have to grab the values. So I'm just going to put 1, 2, 3 for now. We'll update it when I'm finished. We'll grab this and paste that in there, and we need to add one more. I'll just put some values in there, and the final one is the account ID, and we'll put that in there. Right now, I need to grab these variables, the actual values for these variables. I've got them stored in my OnePass. I don't want you seeing that, so I'm actually going to switch the camera view over to this so you can't see my screen, right? So we can do this nice and securely. If we do one password, where are ya? It's over here. Just log into my OnePassword. And I'm in, and you can't see what I'm doing. It's not really important. I'm just literally pasting values into that key value pair. You are not missing out anything other than my credentials, and you can't have that. So I'm just going to copy these three. So I've got the account ID, which is actually not secret, if I'm honest, but it's fine. We'll treat it as a secret, right? And then we have the auth token, which is secret. All right, so just paste that in there. And then we have the service ID, which is, I don't know, I don't think that's secret, but we're gonna treat it as a secret, right? So we have all of these things in here. Now that that's done, let me switch my camera view back so you can see the screen. And so we have these three variables saved here, so we can hit save variable, right? And we have the variable saved. So you can see this variable is I can't even get my words out. This variable is accessible by the task verification in the group verification. Now we haven't deployed the job, so if I hit this link here, it's probably gonna moan. Yes, it is moaning, right? So I just hit back. So now that we've done that, we need to inject these these values into our Docker container when it runs, right? So let's do that. I can't actually remember. I saw some stuff online last night and I can't actually remember how to do this. So we're gonna have to do a bit of a googly. Where's our job file? Our job file is here. We'll just go to that and let's jump on Google. Nomad secure variables. And you can see I was on Google last night and I saw it, and there was a Medium article. Where is it? Let's see if I can find it. I just saw Medium somewhere. Is this it? This might just be it. This is the one, right? This is the one, right? So what we need is this. This is a good Medium article. If people want, I can post this. Just ask in the comments. I can post this in a comment. Just so you know, a guy called Glenn Yu. Shout out to you. Because this is super interesting. But there was a bit inside his job file that does it. I think it's from line 14. So it's this template stanza where he's basically creating a template for a env.vars file, and that's going to inject it into environment variables, right? So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it into my job file, and I'm going to refactor it, right? And this sits in the actual task itself, right? So in the task, we'll actually do what he's done and we'll paste it just here. I might have to do some jiggery pokey to get all this working. Like this looks very ugly. So I'm just going to tab that in just to make it a bit more readable. I'll just make this a bit bigger as well. Right, so we want to refactor this, right? So we're going to render the destination of Nomad secrets directory, and we're going to create this file env.vars, right? It is environment variable, so equals true, and it looks like it does things in a similar way to how you access other parts of Nomad internals, where it uses the kind of with syntax or with secrets or with this or with that, right? So we want to refactor this, and it will be Nomad jobs, and it will be oh nope, I didn't mean to do that. It will be, let's copy and paste again, just try and make this a bit quicker. Verification, and so that's the job name, and then the task group name will be verification, and then the task itself will be verification, right? And here we need to actually pass the different values. So if we head back to to Nomad, we need to do we'll just refactor this and then we'll go through line by line. So we'll do Twilio account SID, and we'll replace that with that, and the dot password is actually dot Twilio account SID, because basically I guess what it's doing is it's getting the entire secure variable, and everything within that secure variable, all the different key values, you refer to it as dot whatever the key is in that key value, right? So we'll do a similar thing. We'll just enter a new line, and we'll do the same for our auth token, and that equals, we'll just, actually we won't do that. We'll just not be lazy, and we'll do dot and paste that. And then one last one, we'll do Twilio service SID, right? So copy that, and we'll hit equals, and we'll do that, right? Let's just make this a bit prettier, so it all lines up. Okay, so that should in theory be good to go. Now, the only thing is this Docker image that we built is not in the public repository. And I don't know if you remember from the last episode, but Nick showed a feature where you could actually copy locally built images from your machine to your Nomad cluster as part of the deployment, right? He also showed me something else where if you don't do that, you can actually push your image locally to that cluster, right? So it's my suspicion that because it's not stored locally in Nomad, it's not actually going to work, because it doesn't know what that image is, it doesn't know where to pull it from, right? So there's a neat command that he told me about, and I'll see if I can remember this. In fact, I'll pull it up on Slack. Yeah, I've got Slack here because he sent it to me earlier on today when I was explaining what I was doing. And where's it gone? Here we go. Right, so it's Jumppad, everything's Jumppad, and it's push. So Jumppad push will just push your Docker image either to a Nomad cluster or a Kubernetes cluster, so you can run these things locally for your dev environment, right? And let's just run the help command just so we can have a quick nose around, right? So when you run Jumppad push, you need to give it the image and you need to tell it what cluster to push it to, right? So If we do that, the image is DevOps Rob / verification dash service, and the tag was 0.1. And the cluster is, if we go back to our Jumppad Nomad, the cluster is resource.nomadcluster.dev, right? That's the name of our cluster. So it'll be resource dot nomad underscore cluster dot dev, right? And that in theory should push our image to our Nomad clients and server, right? So should be good. And yeah, it looks like it's pushing, right? I don't know how long this is going to take. Just make this a little bit bigger, right? So yeah, it's pushing to this specific container. I'm guessing it will just keep pushing as it completes, right? So whilst we wait for that to happen, I think it might be a good idea if we start creating a make file, right? Oh, I already have a make file from the, okay. So there is a make file, and this is from the template. I remember that I just built this from a template. So the make file was already there, right? So this is how we're gonna build our, well, no, this is, oh yeah, here we go. So this is how we're gonna build our Docker container. So I could have actually done make Docker build. And if we're gonna actually push it to a Docker registry, then we can actually just run these things here. But actually what I wanna do is I want to create another make command, which is going to be jp underscore push. And that is basically going to do what we just done. You can see in the logs down here that it's actually pushing that, right? So we'll just tab along there, and it's going to be Jumppad push, and we'll do basically the same as this. So I'll just copy and paste that. And the cluster was called resource dot nomad underscore cluster dot dev, right? So that in theory should just push that. Let's just double check the versions that we have here. So service name, actually it should be dash service. We'll someone change this to DevOps Rob. It's Rob. And we also want to change this to just 0.1, just to keep in line with the Docker build that we actually did. You know, going forward, we can actually just use this and it would just keep everything all in sync, right? So it looks like that has completed. So right on time for us to actually test out our Nomad job file, right? Let's head over here and let's clear the screen. There's a lot of noise on the screen. Let's keep it sleek. And I feel like there's something missing from this job file. And I think it's got something to do with data centers, because I know in Nomad, just like console, it has the concept of data centers. So let me have a quick look at these servers. Yeah, here we go. So it's got data. I feel like I have to do something at the job level. So if I do, I don't know what it is. Is it going to be data underscore center or centers? I think it's centers, because I think you can push jobs to multiple. So it'd be data centers, and because you can push it to multiple, I'm going to make an educated guess that it's an array. And yeah, I'm just going to do any, right? And we'll save that. Now, we're in the position to test this out, right? Let's head back to our Nomad jobs. And if we run Nomad job run, and then we want to give it the file. So it was the verification service.htcl. This is where we hit our fingers crossed moment, right? So we'll run that, and I've done something. Here we go. So I've made an error. So did you mean data centers? See, I really love this about error messaging. So I've made a pebcac, and not only does it tell me something's wrong, it tells me what it could be instead. So I'll just hit that, clear our screen, and let's run that again. And that looks a lot better. So we have one desired. We'll just refresh this page. That's not good, if I'm honest. I expected it to be deployed by now, so there's probably an issue somewhere. No nodes are available in the data center. That is interesting. Let's have a look and see. So we have our clients, which are up and ready. Maybe, if I just go back to jobs, maybe that's because of the way that I've done this. I assume that meant any, right? So if I just kill this and do nomad job stop, and I think it's dash purge, and the job is called verification. That should kill it. Okay, looks like it's killed it. If I just refresh this, it should have gone, and it's gone. Right, let's change this to DC1. We did see DC1 in the server, so let's see if this makes any difference whatsoever. And we'll run that again, because there are definitely nodes. So there's no reason for this not to run, right? So, okay, desired and placed. So it looks like that's fixed it. So if I just refresh this, and it looks like it's running, right? It looks like it's running. So that's a very good look. Let's have a quick look inside here. So it's placed one, and we have one healthy, right? That's amazing. So we have our application deployed locally, right? Now, let's test it. So if I do a curl, so it'll be curl HTTP localhost, and the port was 2001. And if we have a look at the endpoint again, just to remind ourselves, the endpoints, and actually we'll see if we can open up the preview instead. It's more readable. So the endpoint was send one-time password, right? And we'll do that. But actually what I should have done is I need to do -x and tell it that it's a post API call. And we need to give it the actual payload as well, right? Which you can see in a request body in the README. So if we do -d for the payload, and we'll use these speech marks here, and it will be, this is all JSON. So we'll just open up our curly brackets and we'll close it, and we'll just work within that. So we need to give it the country code. So if we do speech marks, I can actually copy that country code. I don't know why it's done that. It's copied the whole thing. That is super annoying. So this is gonna fail. Let's just start again. So curl -x, and we'll just do it manually, and it's post, and -d, and we'll open up our brackets and close them. We'll work inside that, and we'll do country _ code. we'll close that speech mark, and the country code is going to be +44. We're here in the United Kingdom, and we do a comma, and then we'll do the phone number, right? So what is it actually called? It's called mobile, right? Oh, matter of fact, no, we won't do that. Actually, what we'll do is email, because then that way I can actually show you if anything comes through. So better yet, we'll do email, and we'll pop in an email address here. I think I have a demo one called Demo Labs. Let me just check my email client just to remind myself what this is. I only ever use this for demos. Yeah, Demo Labs. Yeah, so I have a demo one. So Demo Labs. So if you try to spam me on this, I will just close down the email account. demolabs@devopsrob.com. And what else do we need for email? I think that's it, right? So let's give this a goose, right? So email or the channel, right? It's talking about the channel, right? So here we go. It's query parameter, right? So that's fine. So if we just got email, all we need to do is now just put the endpoint. So it will be HTTP because we haven't secured it yet. And it'll be local host port 2001 / send -OTP. And query string is normally question mark, and then it's channel equals email, right? And let's see what happens here, right? Before I even hit that, let's just even go onto the verification service and let's view the logs just to make sure everything looks good. If we go to standard error, and you can see the server has started. It's got all this information about it, right? And we got a failure. Couldn't connect. Oh, okay. So the reason why this didn't work is because this is all running inside Nomad, inside a Docker container. There's no ingress, right? We need to specify an ingress for this, right? And I know that there is an ingress feature in Jumppad. So let's head over to our Jumppad and we'll get an ingress sorted out. Now, I don't actually know the syntax for this because I've never done this before. So if we just go to get started and let's have a look at the resources ingress, right? So we have a resource called ingress. And do we have any examples here? And we do. So this is how we're going to okay, so we'll just copy this. It looks like we can just take this and refactor it, right? So the other thing that's super dope is with Jumppad, you run Jumppad up to get your development environment up. And every time you make a change to it, you can just run Jumppad up again. It will refresh that environment with the new changes. But Nick told me this morning about another command he added in the latest version called Jumppad dev, where it watches for changes. So as soon as you change it, it will automatically apply it to your environment. So I'm actually going to run Jumppad dev. I'll do it in this window here. I run Jumppad dev, and there you go. It's checking for changes, right? So let's just paste this change inside here, and we'll change the name of this resource to verification. You can tell by now I struggle with that word and the spelling. Verification _ service. Right, and the port for this service is 2001. The target was actually the same, resource.nomadcluster.dev, and I guess you need the ID for that. Named port, if you remember, we named the port, what did we name it? I think we named it VS, I hope. We'll just head to this and have a quick look. Where was it? Yeah, we named it VS. I think that's what it's looking for. So we'll just hope and pray. Now the job is called, let me just copy and paste because I'm not going to bore you with these spelling conundrums. The job is called verification. The group is called verification and the task is called verification. So I think that's it. So if I hit save, that should deploy automatically to, there you go. You can see here, verification service ingress, and it is deploying that. The fact is checking for changes again. I'm going to make the assumption that that's complete, right? So if we run that API command again, fingers crossed, we should get a response. Let me actually put JQ on just so that if it does work, we can actually get a nice response. And it has worked, right? So let's just make this a bit bigger so we can see. We made the API call to our server. We've got this ingress and it's sent us this response here. So it sent us the status of that one-time verification. So the way it works with Twilio is when it sends the one-time verification code, it puts it in a state of pending. When the person submits the correct one-time password within the time frame window, it changes that pending to approved. And it just tells us exactly where it sent it to. So this is just a dummy email address that I have for demos and stuff like that. If you spam it, I'll shut it down and create a new one. So don't try me. And it just gives us some metadata like it was the email channel and the date it was created and updated. If we have a look at Nomad itself, you can see actually in the logs here, this is the same information here. So the channel is that, gives us the date and time. The log level, you've got different log levels that you can enable with this service. I haven't set anything, so it's currently set to info. But I can actually set that to debug as well, right? So, and actually, let's actually do that. Let's update our Nomad job. Let's just bring this down a little bit. And we'll update our Nomad job. And here is the Nomad job here. And I don't actually know where environment variables go, if it goes in the task, in the group, or in the job. I'm going to assume it's the task. I'm actually going to Google that. So Nomad env block and see what we learn. So env block here. So env block goes in the task itself, right? So we'll do that. And in the task, we'll just do it underneath here. Hopefully this is fine. And the environment variable that you need to set is all capital letters, log underscore level, and the value we'll just set to debug, right? So we'll save that. And if we run our Nomad job again, let's just actually head back here so we can see the goodies. If we run our Nomad job again, that should deploy a newer version with debug enabled, hopefully. So it looks good. You can actually see it's deploying a second version. Let's actually click into that and see if there's any issues. Doesn't actually look like there is issues. It looks like you have one healthy now. So that's all good. So if I go back to our allocation and view the logs, we can see that log level is now set to debug. I don't really think it makes that much difference with the API call that I made before. We'll make it again just so we can see that in real time coming up. And it comes up there. It still comes up as info because this action logs it as info. If there's an issue, it would log it as error. But yeah, essentially that's kind of our application deployed into our development environment, right? So what we can do now is, that's all good. Like, we're fiddling around with the app, we're making changes. We want to push it to our Nomad cluster so we can run the job. We don't want to push it to our public repository, right? But we're talking about building a repeatable development environment. So one of the things that we need to do is we need to not have to, every time we spin it up, push that image. We want it there by default, right? So we can, if we head back to this, we can actually go to our Jumppad resource, and this is the Nomad cluster. And again, I can't actually remember what this resource is called, but it's the one that we saw in a video in the last episode where Nick copied local images to the Nomad cluster as part of the spin up. So if we go to Nomad cluster and see if I can find where it is, copy image, this is the one. So we basically want to do copy image. We'll copy that. We'll place it in this resource here, and the name is, we'll just call it verification. I was a lot quicker typing it this time, but let's not jinx ourselves. And the local image name is DevOps Rob / verification - service, and the tag, oh, did I not type? The tag is 0.1, right? So if you hit save on that, interesting, it's missing required argument, name is required. Okay. I thought, okay, I understand. So I thought name was like what I'm calling it. So actually I need to do name and save that, and this should fix it. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah, that's fixed it. So that's cool. Let's just do a little bit of tidying up just to make our file look a piece nicer. We'll save that, right? So now if we tear down our environment and tear it back up again, that image is always going to be there, right? The next thing is we deployed our Nomad job manually, right? So we're going to want to put that into our image, right? So there was another resource, which is Nomad job. And here we go. So if we copy this resource and we place it here, this is all Nomad related, so we'll leave it in the same file, Nomad job, and that is going to be see, I messed it up. Verification, and the cluster is the same. Let's remove the ... And what are the things that we need? So we need jobs, so an array of Nomad jobs must be marked as running by the Nomad server. Cool. Okay, path. So this is the path to the file. So if we do paths and just copy that, paste that in here. So the path in our file. So we are in the root directory. The path of our file. Are we in the root directory? No, we're not. So the path of our file is going to be a little bit awkward. So it's actually going back one, I think. And then it's going to be verification service that I'm actually just going to copy that entire file name. Copy. Yeah, I'll paste that in there. So that's our path. And let's see about these health checks. I don't really know about the health checks, right? But the thing that's actually nice about this is, I don't even know if this is the right way to do things. We'll see. The thing that's nice about this is I can spin up my development environment and that job is automatically going to be deployed, right? Now there might be a bit of an issue because of the variables that we put in manually, but we'll have to find a way around that, and we will, right? So if I just hit save on that, let's see if it has any issues. It seems to have an issue, and it's actually made it just go. So it doesn't like the identity block, right? So what that might be is maybe it's using a slightly older version of Nomad. And furthermore, right? If I head over to Nomad, is there anything about this job where identity is a thing, right? And I don't actually see anything. So we've got services. We haven't actually registered the service. We'll probably do that in the next video. We have our 2 deployments, 2 versions. Yeah, I don't actually see anything in there, right? So what we'll do is we'll head to our job file and we'll remove identity, because I don't actually know what that does and what I'm going to use it for, right? So if we do Jumppad dev again, let's see if it goes kaboom, or if it just keeps checking for changes. If it does keep checking for changes, that means that there's nothing wrong with the syntax of our files, right? So let's test this out. We'll just kill that and we'll do Jumppad down. I actually need to create an alias. Instead of typing Jumppad every time, I just want to type JP. It's way cooler. But yeah, we'll just wait for that to go down, and then what we'll do is we'll spin it back up again. And yeah, I'm expecting the job to be deployed but fail, right? Because we haven't got a solution for the secure variables that we set up earlier on, right? We need to find a solution for that, and we will. But we'll probably do that in the next video where we kind of just verify this and enhance it a bit more, right? So if I do Jumppad up, or we'll do Jumppad dev, right? Jumppad dev to spin it back up again. We should have, I refresh this page, it will probably just say there's nothing there, which is cool. We'll just run this. And while we're waiting for that, let me just head over to, where has it gone? Demo labs, and I'll just open up this email, and this is the verification code. I'll see if I can actually, have I got an empty screen where I can just bring it over? Yeah, this is the email that I received when I made that test API call, right? So I received this email, it gives us the code, you know, nothing major, right? But that's the verification service in action, actually working, actually delivering a real email address, right? A real email to the email address. So yeah, it looks like it's still creating resources. Obviously this page is auto-loaded, so there's nothing at the moment. Go to jobs. It's still loading. And there's like a Jumppad connector. I'm not actually sure what that connector does, but it's something that deploys by default when you run Jumppad to deploy your Nomad cluster. So when we see that job running, that's a sign that we're kind of getting close to the point where the cluster is fully deployed, right? So we'll just wait for that, and we just want to check that our Nomad job is actually deployed. Maybe not running. In terms of getting it running, we can look at that in the next video. We've gone through the process of what needs to happen under the hood, and we've tested our service in this environment, and that seemed to be working. So and we still don't have any joy with that yet, but we must be patient. We must really be patient, right? So we can actually add to our make file as well, right? Instead of running Jumppad up and all that every single time, let's, I know I should create an alias, but I'm actually just going to put it in here. And actually, I think it's up because now it's just checking for changes. We'll refresh this. And we have 2 services, and I expected this to deploy but fail. And let's see if we can just see the error message I'm expecting. So if we go into this, it's not actually failing yet. Oh, here we go. So the reason why it's failing, as we suspected, is because it's actually missing the variable. So the job is configured to actually read that variable, and we need to find a solution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this video here. I'm going to do a bit of research, and when I find out how we can inject these secure variables, at spin up time, and try and find a way to do it securely without having our API keys and so on and so forth in our source code, because we don't want to do that. Then we'll jump into the next episode and we'll do that, and we'll look at enhancing our Nomad job a little bit by adding like service discovery and so on and so forth, and we'll just progress from there. But I hope you have enjoyed this episode. It's been a journey. I've really enjoyed learning all this stuff here, and I look forward to seeing you in episode 3, where we make further enhancements and get our startup running. Catch you later, peeps.